Adeyinka, the Housing Court Deputy Court Administrator for the Housing Court. He's here to just speak about the services, resources available to you through the Housing Court. Very nice gentleman. Please give me your attention.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Brett, for this invite. As he mentioned, my name is Ben Adeyinka. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator for the Housing Court. I thank you for giving me a little bit of time to present to you. I'll be brief about the resources that the Housing Court may offer. Before I start, I wanted to thank your council. Particularly, I want to thank Brett Roman, President, Vice President John, Marie, Tina, as well as everyone else as a part of the council. Thank you for this opportunity. This will be the first of many, hopefully, partnerships with the Housing Court. So again, my name is Ben Adeyinka. I've been serving as the role of Deputy Court Administrator for the past year. Prior to that, I was the court's attorney, and I worked in the Housing Court exclusively for the past 4.5, 5 years. Prior to that, I was in private practice representing banks and large corporations. The Chief Justice of the Housing Court is Chief Justice Timothy F. Sullivan. He could not be here today, but he extends his warmest welcomes, and again, we hope to continue this partnership. So just a little bit about the Housing Court. The Housing Court, as you know, was created in 1972. It started here in Boston to combat urban blight. Subsequently thereafter, the Housing Court expanded. We have 6 divisions. Recently, in July 17th of 2017, we were lucky enough to expand to cover the entire Commonwealth. That represents roughly 84 cities and towns, roughly 2 million citizens who didn't have access to a housing court now have access. The expansion did impact some parts of Suffolk County, but as you know, most of you had access to a housing court. Chelsea is now going to, Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop will also have access to a housing court. Prior, they were going to the Chelsea District Court. Has anyone been into a housing court? Okay. Yeah, okay, good. Hopefully it was a good experience. If not, we can talk about that after. We'll make sure that we discuss your concerns. We're made up of about roughly 137 full-time employees who report to both the Chief Justice and I. We have a budget of roughly $10 million, and to do that work, we employ 15 judges, 6 statutory clerks. In fiscal year 19, just to give you a perspective of how much cases that we handle, how many cases we handled roughly 41,000 case filings. Again, we only had 137 staff. So of those 41,000 total case filings, 31,000 was summary process, which is just a fancy word for eviction, landlord-tenant issues that come into our court, summary process eviction. So that takes up about 80% or more of our caseload. As I mentioned to you, we have 6 divisions. The Eastern Division, which was formerly known as Boston, located here at 24 New Chardon. We have the Central Division, which was formerly known as the Worcester Housing Court. The newest of all of our divisions is the Metro South, which is centrally located in Brockton. They cover parts of Plymouth and Norfolk County. The Northeast Division, that covers all of Essex, portions of Middlesex, Southeast, and then the Western Division. And each housing court is comprised of a leadership of 3 individuals, particularly a first justice, a clerk magistrate, and a chief housing specialist. Those are the people you should go to if you have any concerns or questions, but I'm also going to leave my contact information as a resource. So what is our jurisdiction? What does the housing court, what is our ability to adjudicate consist of? So we can hear summary process evictions. We just talked about that. Small claims cases, civil actions involving personal injury, breach of contract, discrimination claims, foreclosure challenges, and other claims. The nexus for our jurisdiction has to deal with residential occupants, the health, safety, and welfare. That would implicate the housing court's jurisdiction. So for instance, commercial real estate we don't deal with. But if there is an element of residential housing in that, it could be quasi-housing court jurisdiction. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Some of the exciting initiatives underway in the housing court that you should be aware of is we're moving towards digitization, which means the trial court, Massachusetts, we're behind the curve. We're trying to enhance the way we do business, to make it more efficient for landlords and tenants to do business in the housing court. One of those initiatives are e-filing. So you should be aware of that. That's something that we're trying to do. As you know, we're a progressive state, but we're behind the curve when it comes to making the court more accessible. You know, traditionally you have to come into the court and file your papers or mail them in. That can be expensive, that can take time. You can come into our court now, and prospectively we're working on e-filing for two case types. The biggest case type is our summary process case and our small claims case. So we're going to try to go mandatory with e-filing, so mandatory for attorneys only, permissive for anyone else that wants to file a case electronically. Stay tuned for that. We're hoping to do that by the end of calendar year 19, early 2020. What are the resources that we have? And I'll be brief. I just wanted to mention we have a high population of self-represented litigants. You've heard the term pro se. That term is archaic because pro se, what does that really mean? It just means self-represented. We deal with a high population of self-represented litigants. I'm proud to report that our court represents the population it serves. What does that mean? So in a place like Boston, where you have a high population of perhaps Latinos, people from Cape Verde, so we have employed not only people, we have employed individuals in our court. We've searched these individuals out that are bilingual and that are diverse, and they represent the community. So meaning if someone has an issue in the housing court, if you have limited English proficiency, don't feel afraid to come in. We also are not asking people to present their IDs. We're not a court that asks you for IDs to come in and do your business. If you have a complaint, if you have an issue that needs to be redressed, bring that case into the housing court and you'll be taken care of. Again, those three individuals that if you have any questions you can ask would be the clerk magistrate, the chief housing specialist, or the first justice, or myself. What else do we have in the housing court? Housing specialists who are trained in the state sanitary code. These individuals have the ability not only to perhaps go into a property and do an inspection, they're certified as state, they're licensed for all intents and purposes as health inspectors. So they're licensed to perform inspections, etc. So sometimes a code enforcement officer might say that violation is A, B, and C. We send our housing specialists out to see if A, B, and C really is what A, B, and C is. We also are not afraid for our judges to take that trip to an apartment or to a unit. If there's a big controversy, we've had judges go to the property. I'll be honest with you, Chief Justice Sullivan has done that on many occasions and visited a property where there was an issue where it may be perceived that these violations exist, so the court will go in and do an inspection. We also have the Lawyer for the Day program for those individuals, both landlords and tenant, who may not be able to obtain representation. That should not prevent you from coming into our court. We make that available at no cost, first come, first serve. Again, the numbers lead us to believe that there's a higher population of self-represented litigants on the tenant side. So a lot of those services are provided for tenants and they're done by legal aid. That doesn't mean that anyone who has an issue that needs access to an attorney cannot get one in the housing court, specifically in this court, which is the Eastern Division of the housing court. So I want you to challenge me to that. If you have an issue, please let us know. Before my time is up, just so you know some of the things we deal with as far as societal challenges, we have a high population of domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health abuse. Those are our clients. Those are the individuals who come into our court. So the individuals who work for the housing court are trained to handle those issues. They're trained annually and sometimes biannually on these issues. So in conclusion, I just want to thank you for your allowing me to speak to you today. I've left some handouts thanks to the President, Brett Roman. He's provided you with some handouts. But the most important thing that I want to leave with you is the ability to reach out if you need any help or information. I'm going to leave my business cards, and I'll let you get back to your busy agenda. But thank you, Brett, for allowing me to speak to you. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to take those questions.
Any questions for Ben before he gets off? Ben, I just want to say thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us tonight. I think that the housing court is something that not a lot of people are aware of, and all the services that they they contribute to landlords and tenants. I feel like there's a lot of tenants, especially younger tenants, first-time renters, don't really know their rights as a tenant, and landlords a lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes they're not as educated as they think, so they think terrible. But needless to say, it's a great resource. Ben's a great guy. Feel free to reach out to them, and don't be afraid to use them.
Thank you.
Thank you.